Welcome and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Tommy, just Tommy, and with this video, I just want to do a real quick critique on Assassin's Creed Origins because I finally, took the time and played through it fully and rolled credits. I didn't play the DLCs or anything like that, just the main story, and I just got some, some thoughts about it. So let's just jump into it, shall we?
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
So first of all, I mean, if you have played through AC Origins and you're a longtime Assassin's Creed fan, I don't know how you could really have a perspective that this is not immensely flawed as far as the storyline goes. It's a very fun game. Let's get this out in the open first. It's a very fun game, considering that it was the first like fully open world RPG-esque game that they've ventured forth on and kind of separated from the traditional way that they did AC games. So it's very fun, and they've only built on that since this game has come out with the other iterations of their games. But with this one in particular, it's very fun. It's beautiful, such a beautiful game. Still, even today, it holds up. It came out in 2017, almost 10 years ago, and I would argue that it rivals some newer games that have come out graphically and technically. But as far as the storyline goes, it feels very disjointed and kind of all over the place, especially like right in the beginning. I think that might have been the reason why I picked it up and put it down, a bunch of times, was because right in the beginning it just feels so disjointed and disconnected from how previous AC games introduced the player into the game. Right off the bat, it jumps into a cutscene where you're essentially somebody, and you're like, what is going on here? It's certainly you certainly get the idea that it's built off of revenge for some reason, and you think this could be because the way that it's shot, it looks like it's a memory. It looks like it could be something that has happened before. And then it jumps into another cutscene that introduces you to battle and how the new mechanics work, which I understand. I get that. It could have done better, way better. It could have been introduced way better and more effective, I think. But after that, it goes into this like a story cutscene where you save your friend after you fall through, the ground, and you work your way through this old ancient tomb and whatnot. Still, it's teaching you mechanics of the game, because they had switched from previous games. But aside from all that, you realize, oh, he has the long hair, he has the beard. So that previous cutscene before the fight wasn't a long time memory. It must have been recent. So you start playing the game, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into full detail about it, because I'm sure you probably watched plenty of videos about this topic if you're into it or had it and, an opinion on it. So I'll leave you to other way more in-depth videos out there. But just from that point on, it's not really executed very well, in my opinion. And then when you start getting deeper into the story and you meet your significant other or your wife, Aya, in the game, you start to realize, if you've played the previous one, that she feels more like the previous protagonists from the AC games. And by the end of the game, you should have this understanding that this game might be leading up to a standalone game or a sequel where you play as Aya, as the assassin, because it doesn't seem like it. You realize she's putting everything together as far as the Brotherhood, the Assassin's Creed, the Brotherhood. She's like the architect behind literally everything. And with our protagonist that we play as Bayek, as much as I love him as a character and I can relate to him and his struggles, but as much as I like him as a protagonist, there's not really too much character building and progress that happens with him in this game. And even, I guess, in the DLCs, from what I've seen, there's no like real growth with him. And it sucks because usually in Assassin's Creed games, it's not like that. It's not, you can see the error of your ways to a degree, and you know, you build from that, you learn from your mistakes and whatnot. And there's just really none of that with Bayek. His whole motivation throughout the whole game is revenge, finding the people who were responsible for his kid's death. In the beginning, you realize Bayek is the one that kills his son on complete accident. You know, he stabs his son in the heart, even though he was trying to kill the dude that captured them. He was meant to throw the knife into the chest of his son. So there's no sense of him owning up to his own responsibilities or his own actions. Yes, the people that were there that kidnapped his son and was forcing him to do whatever, they were ultimately responsible for killing his son, because had they not been in that situation, he would have never killed, like, he would have never tried to kill the guy in the mask, which in turn sent him and redirected him into his son's chest. Like, I get that. I completely understand that. But throughout the whole game, like, it's just this revenge mission, and you're taking out these people. Even after you get the you know, even after you exact revenge on the people that you think were like, Bayek is still not convinced. And even all the way up until he assassinates the main guy, Flavius, who was responsible for him being in that situation. In the cutscene, he's even like, I can't do it. I can't end this guy's life. And then you see his son's like, it's okay, father. And he's like, no, I'll lose you forever, because he's tied the death of his son and revenge to who he actually is. So from the start of the game, it's been a year since that had happened. So for a whole year, he's looking for his son's killers. So up until the point of the game starting, that's when it starts. So he's going through all this, whatever he's going through, and then we take him as a playable character and do all the revenge killings by taking out the people in the Order of the Ancients. But like I said, even up at the end, he is still scared to get rid of that person who was ultimately responsible, because he feels like he's going to lose his son, his memory of his son, and all this. And even after all that, there's still no growth. And I can see from different perspectives where Aya comes from, and how Bayek acts and how Aya acts. In the couple interactions throughout the game with Aya, you bring up your son, the death of your son, and she kind of cuts you off. And she's kind of very, I don't want to say cold, but she's very avoidant of the situation, which I completely understand. I get it. But it didn't feel like, to me, like Aya was the mother of this child. You get what I'm saying? There might have been one instance at the end where she says something that you're like, oh, okay, you're acknowledging that you had a son together. But it just felt very disconnected. She didn't feel like she was part of that struggle. You know what I mean? She was dealing with it, I guess, in a different way. But we're never led on to see what that perspective is. And even the little bit that we get to play as her, there's no character development for, like, remorse or regret of not being around whenever the death of her son happened. Like, we don't know any of that stuff. And that's why it feels so disconnected, because Bayek in the beginning, it feels like throughout the whole, like, throughout the whole game, in my opinion, he feels like a side character that was just inserted into a game that was started to be built around Aya as the assassin. And it's really more prevalent towards the end when you start to see who she is and how she's put together the brotherhood stuff, and the idea and concept of the brotherhood. And even the last cutscene where she introduces herself as Amunet, the legendary assassin that was introduced in or talked about in Assassin's Creed 2 as part of like this, one of the 7 key assassins that have built the brotherhood as to what it is today, with its morals, its code, and its creed, and all this. So you see that she has become Amunet, and there's no mention of Bayek in any of the previous games. Like nothing, not one little shred. Like he just he doesn't feel like the traditional assassin that we got. And with all of his, and I know what you're saying. Well, with AC Origins, that's the one that you don't have to have a DNA strand that leads to them being an assassin. So anyone can really, you can really go into anyone's memories and play as whoever. And it just so happens, though, like in present day, it just so happens we find the tomb of Bayek, who wasn't an assassin. Like they say, even like Google and everything, they paint him as the very first assassin, but there's literally no mention of him at all throughout the whole entirety of the Assassin's Creed franchise. And his wife being a legendary assassin, Amunet, you would think that there would be something tied to them in the later games, which would be, the older games that we played. But because he's not mentioned at all, there's nothing tied to Bayek. It feels like he was just inserted into a game that was going to be centered around Amunet, which makes sense. She's hinted at in AC2. She's the Egyptian assassin. We have Origins coming around. It's based around Egypt. Everyone was literally thinking, oh, we're getting Amunet. And it was like a 180. They just, nope. They hit us with something that was completely different. And like I said, I like Bayek as a character. And his motivation of revenge, I get all that. But when there's no character growth, at a certain point, you can't really relate to the character anymore. You feel what I'm saying? And for him to not get any sort of credit at all as being one of the founding members of the Hidden Ones, which later became the Assassin's Creed, is kind of crazy to me. Because in the game, everything, as far as when you see Amunet, she's very assertive, she's very driven, she's very to the point, she's very motivated into doing what they have to do, and then, creating the creed and having everyone like live by it. The only semblance that you really get that Bayek was really kind of behind a piece of the creed is, I guess there was I seen a little clip of it on YouTube of the DLC where they're in a cave and he's talking to Amunet after they reunited, and she's Amunet, and he's like, well, the creed will live on forever. We have to make sure that the creed doesn't go anywhere. But it's just the fact that he's not mentioned at all, and he's living alongside one of the legendary assassins who made the Brotherhood what it actually was up into that. Even the current day stuff with Desmond and his dad, and even they live by that stuff. So with him being pivotal in this, in fighting alongside of Amunet, aka Aya, who has created and being a co-founder of the Hidden Ones, the Brotherhood, with him not being mentioned at all in previous games, tells me that that's a big indication that he seems like he was just inserted. Or maybe he was meant to die. I don't really know. Maybe Amunet was supposed to have this and have him as a husband. He was supposed to be in the game, but he wasn't meant to be the playable character. Maybe he was meant to die, just like the son was meant to die. I don't know. And she was, and she was hell-bent on a revenge path because she seems very cold too. She seems stoic, whereas Bayek seems more emotional when it comes to like children, and like he's very empathetic and soft when it comes to family, friends, and children. And Aya Amunet is like previous assassins. She feels like the previous assassins. So I don't know really what's going on with this game. I know Shadows is coming out. I just started Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I started a couple different times, but other games came out. I haven't finished that game because I'm not interested into it. I haven't finished it because there's so many other games that have come and gone, and I'm now just getting back into the AC franchise. And with me finishing Origins, I was like, yo, I still have Mirage, so I'm jumping back into Mirage. Mirage feels like the original. Mirage feels like a nice blend of both the open world RPGs and the old style of Assassin's Creed. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm still very early on in that. And I think AC Mirage is the only one that we're playing where we're not in the Animus. We're actually playing as a memory of Basim. So there's no present day stuff really in it as far as I know right now. But yeah, with Shadows coming out and it not really having the greatest of press, I'm holding out hope, but Shadows doesn't seem like it's gonna be anything good. And I'm really hoping that, you know, Ubisoft really get a hold of the writing. That's the main thing, is the writing. Please start getting a hold of the writing creativity team and do us justice with better AC games, story-wise. Technically, the games, they usually come out in awesome conditions. They always usually look beautiful. It's just the stories where it kind of falters. And the past ones, man, we're not even going to talk about Valhalla. Odyssey, for a long time, I was like, yo, I hate Odyssey because it's just everything that is not Assassin's Creed. And come to find out, you know, it's because there's nothing about Assassin's Creed that's really related to that game at all. Like, you can literally take the Assassin's Creed name out of it and just call it Odyssey, and that it would make sense, in my opinion, as a video game. It would make sense as a completely different IP if it didn't have Assassin's Creed attached to it, in my opinion. But yeah, it's kind of my thoughts. I don't know. It was kind of, the story was kind of everywhere. It really was, the ending was kind of lackluster. Like I said, I didn't play any of the DLCs because I just didn't feel justified in paying for them and putting myself through what they had to offer. But I will say this, because I did play Odyssey and I played Valhalla. Origins was the perfect length and stuff to do inside content. It was the perfect blend when it comes to the open world RPGs. After playing Odyssey and Valhalla, my goodness, those games were so long. There was so much to do. A lot of it felt like filler content that wasn't even interesting. But Origins kind of, I think personally, did it perfect. It wasn't super duper long. It wasn't too long. It didn't overstay its welcome like those other two games. So I'm hoping Shadows isn't like that. I'm hoping Shadows follows more of the traditional, you know, route of content. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my time with Origins, but as far as the story goes, man, I gotta say, it was very lackluster, and I can understand people's frustration. And this is not me taking away from, I'm not trying to take anything away from the team and their efforts and whatnot, but Ubisoft, you just really need to really start vetting your writers and get, I think, more, not even better, but just get more, I think, writers that are creative, and let them do that. Let them tell the creative story. That way things don't feel disjointed or disconnected. You know, get people that really understand storytelling and long-term storytelling. That way everything can intertwine and interconnect. Things can happen that maybe don't make sense in the beginning, but you know, eventually things start to come together and their roots start to connect, and the player gets to go, oh, that's so, if this didn't happen and that didn't happen, or this happened because X, Y, and Z happened. You get what I'm saying? It didn't, Origins did not feel like that. It felt lackluster. And like I said, the main motivation for Bayek was just a revenge story. That's really all it was just a revenge plot. And they could have done so much more with it and just didn't get a chance to. I don't know. But that's my thoughts on it. I know it's almost 10 years late, but you know, with me going through it, I felt like I wanted to, you know, put my thoughts and ideas out there in video form, and you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below as well. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or do you have no, you don't feel any certain way about it? You let me know. Let's get a dialogue going on that game and you know, previous games, the newer games. Shadows coming out. I think Assassin's Creed needs to be talked about much more on this platform. So you guys let me know what you think down there. Of course, follow the socials in the description. There's a link you can follow there. You'll find, you know, my music, my other social medias, and all that. And as always, it's been your boy. It's been Rio, and I am out. Later.